Finding empowerment, embracing layers, yeah. We get to. Hello, welcome to the 5-year anniversary celebration here on the Field Podcast. We are kicking it off today with our friend Leslie Draffin. Leslie couldn't join us live today, so we're recording a couple of weeks in advance. Leslie was not only our top episode from season 8, she is our top episode ever. The title of that episode says a lot: Unmasking the Layers, Eating Disorders, Sexual Shame, and the Journey to Self-Healing with Leslie Draffin. Don't worry if you missed it, it's going to be linked. You're going to hear about it. You're going to be able to find it easily. Go back and listen to it. I was telling Leslie before we got on today, this is one of our longer episodes, and we have over time, we're closing in on 300 episodes, and we have several episodes that are in that hour and a half range. But there's kind of a rule out there in the podcast world to try to keep it under an hour so you don't lose listeners. This episode is an hour and 26 minutes long, and it's our most popular ever, which just goes to show women want to hear authentic content. They want to hear women give a voice to the things they're struggling with to help them feel safe, to help them feel seen, to help them feel heard. And Leslie, you give a voice to that, which if you listen to her episode, there is an irony in that. I'm not going to give it away. Go back and listen to the episode. Thank you so much for coming back and doing this with me. How are you? It's been a year and a half since we actually recorded that episode. It's been a little over a year. It dropped at the end of May 2025. How are you?
Hi, Melissa. I'm so good. And yes, it feels like multiple lifetimes have happened since we sat together and recorded in, I think, January or December of either late 24, early 25. But I'm doing great. And I'm so excited to be here at your 5-year anniversary show.
Yeah. And I think that the thing that your episode represents to me, and it wasn't ever the plan, but it just represents so much of why I started these conversations. I wanted women to have a safe place to land, to talk about and hear about and connect with all the topics we've been told that's not appropriate. That's not comfortable here. You shouldn't talk about that. That's private, blah, 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 blah. And meanwhile, we carry the shame, we carry the fear, we carry the stigma, and it manifests in all of these different harmful ways that we address in your conversation, whether it's an eating disorder, whether it's alcohol issues, whether it is just stuffing and storing in your body to a point that there starts to be physical manifestations of illness because you can't carry it anymore. You give a voice to all of it. You're also, and I will tell you, big love out there to the PKs, the pastor kids out in the world. A lot of you know them. And if you are one, that's a tough road to hoe, regardless of how well your parents did or didn't handle the situation. You grow up in a fishbowl. Mm-hmm. So that sets this whole idea of what is and isn't acceptable into a very narrow lens because you're being watched all the time. And there's no room to mess up. There's no room to have real messy feelings and conflicts because everybody's watching. And that really sets the trajectory up for all of these other issues that you come into later. This isn't just true for pastors' kids. This is true across the board for little girls, but it really gets manifest in this way. Mm-hmm. That really set you down the road, and you took the brave, courageous step of choosing yourself in these ways. Talk to me about what you've learned since we recorded.
I think as I listened back to our episode this morning to prep for our chat today, what was so interesting is exactly what you just said, right? Having grown up in this fishbowl where everybody else's opinions seemed to have more weight than my own. And over the last year and a half, it's interesting because, as I've leaned more into helping women come back into their bodies, helping them adjust to life outside of religion, helping them seek more of their own spirituality, if that's goddess-based or more witchy or more mystical, what I realized, and I think I kind of hinted at it in our chat, was so much of my fear has been based on the projection that I have had onto other people. And so what I mean by that is
Mm.
a lot of times people weren't judging me. I was judging myself. And I felt
Mm.
that they were putting that back on me. And so what I've really been looking at over the last year and a half is the reflection that I am seeing in the mirror of every relationship around myself. And so when I don't feel like myself, when I don't feel worthy, when I feel ashamed, when I don't feel like I should do my spiritual practices, when I feel like maybe my husband is judging me because he's a Christian and I'm not, what I have realized, and it definitely came out last fall in a very witch wound kind of way, is that I'm the problem. I'm the problem, right? My own beliefs about myself manifest by being reflected back to me and the people that I'm around. And so when I
Mhm.
adjust my own beliefs and my own self-concept, my own, identity, that stops getting reflected back to me.
Yeah.
And it's
That
weird, right? It's very like, again, if you have ever done anything in the manifestation world, it's very much your beliefs create your reality. And so when I believed it was wrong for me to lean into my witchiness, to lean into somatics, to lean into psychedelics, sometimes what was reflected back to me was that it was wrong. But when I changed my own belief about it being wrong and decided that it was perfectly right for me, guess what? The same thing happened.
Mhm. Yes, that mirror
Mhm.
is a big thing and it will reflect back on us. And I love it, that accountability piece, because here's the deal. We spend a lot of time treating our thoughts as truth.
Ugh.
We spend a lot of time like, well, if I communicate that boundary or that expectation, I literally an hour and a half ago recorded an episode about communicating boundaries and
Mhm.
expectations. And the fact that we have an accountability to what we speak to people, to what we communicate to people about what we will and won't allow. That includes unpacking those thoughts
Mhm.
that we're treating as truth and determining, is that a story I'm telling myself? Do I need to dig into this? Do I need to go back to the root of where that comes from and unpack this?
Yeah.
And so I think that's such an important reminder of, at the end of the day, we have to be willing to stay curious and continue on the journey of doing the work to live out what I call feel, finding empowerment, embracing layers. With all the things you've done, go listen to this episode. It's gold. It's number one all time for a reason. But with all that intentional work you've done, you're still learning.
Mhm.
You're still unpacking layers. You're still being required to be accountable to that and to be curious. You
Yeah.
could have gone into judgment mode and just continued reflecting back these things you drummed up in your head that must be true, when in fact it was just still parts of you that needed to be healed, to
Mhm.
believe healthier and about yourself than it was an actual reflection of what you were getting back from others. And we teach people how to treat us, whether we realize it or not.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah, so good. So, in this time that we've got together, just any last reflection or thought you'd like to share with our listeners as we wrap up this time today, with you, and celebrating the success of your episode and the
Mhm.
contribution it's been to us here at the Embracing Layers Network and the Field Podcast.
I think for me, something that's happened over the last 8, 9, 10 months, really, almost a year, um, is something we kind of talked a little bit about in our chat, but it is this importance of getting, like you said, support, getting guidance, getting assistance, and finding coaches and guides that align with you. So last year,
Yes.
I hired a woman who I had on my podcast. Her name is Tara Wisco, and we worked together for about 9 months in a couple of different ways. One was because I had just such a crash out last year around my body. We talked a lot about
Mm,
my past and eating disorders and how I
yeah.
was very anti-diet. Well, what happened last summer is I started to hide. I started to feel really, really just weighed down physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally by my body. And yet I had this voice in my head saying, oh, I shouldn't want to look a certain way. I shouldn't want to this because then that's going to trigger my old stuff. Well, Tara is an intuitive healer. She's also someone who has gone through her own weight journey. And so I hired her and worked with her. And yes, I dropped some pretty significant weight, but more than that, I realized how much self trust and self certainty was something that I was lacking, really, because of the way that my body still felt in some ways like the enemy.
Mm,
And I had been going through all these cycles of reconnecting to the womb, reconnecting to my menstrual cycle, no longer being anorexic and bulimic. And so last year when I hired her, one of the first things I told her, I was like, look, I don't want to retrigger my old eating issues. And I know that what's happening right now is not in alignment. I don't
mm,
feel good. And so we did a lot of work. And what was so fascinating, because she also does hypnosis,
mm,
is I was able to shift my mindset around what my body is and isn't. And this is a portal, a vessel for me to do my work and my mission. And if I don't feel good in it, then I can't do my mission. And so that's been a very interesting shift, because I think for so long I thought my body was just this pretty outside, flesh bag that people looked at. And in reality, it's the vessel that allows me to do what I need to do. And without
mm,
her, I don't think that I would have been able to really shift into this next timeline. And I say all of that because if you're someone who has had whatever it is, right? A therapist, and then you spent time without one, or a nutritionist and you spent time without one, or whatever it is that you've been on your journey, the up level that can happen when you just find that perfect person for that perfect time in your life. Maybe not the perfect person for everybody, but for you, it's
yeah.
just so lovely. And, we talked a bit about in our episode just the importance of community and connection and support. And that's certainly something that I've been leaning much more into in my personal work as far as my business goes. But I'm just a living, walking embodiment of what it looks like to get support, even at this level of the journey. And so I guess if you're listening, I would just say that might be the nudge that you need to not do things alone. Because could I have dieted again by myself? Maybe. Could I have self hypnotized? Yes, because I can do that now. But yet she was this wonderful lighthouse to assist me in finding my way back to myself.
Mm. Self-trust and coming home to yourself.
Mhm.
That's such a beautiful way to wrap this up, because that's really where I see us going here as a network. I want you to trust yourself. And you know what? It is not surprising to me, we talked about a very conservative faith-based background myself. It is not surprising that the self-trust thing is the dangling thing that was still hanging on, because we hear from the get go to look to other things, other beings, other people, other teachings, because we are sin natured and not
Mhm.
trustworthy. So
Yeah.
that self-trust thing is, I'm still working on it. So thank you for sharing that reflection, because at the end of the day, if we can trust ourselves, we will respond to what our body's telling us with confidence and not fear, and not like,
Mhm.
did I get that right? Is that,
Mhm.
and not, it just opens up even more freedom. It opens up more opportunity, more space to come home to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm. Leslie, remind people where they can find and follow you.
So I'm on the social medias at Leslie Draffin, and I have my own podcast called The Light Within. And then, of course, if you are someone who is interested in doing some of this work, reach out. Let's chat. You can book a free call. We can talk about the offerings that I'm focused on at the moment.
All right. Thank you, my friend, for sharing this time with me, for sharing so authentically and vulnerably your story and journey with the world. You really are a voice that we women need to hear. You call yourself a permissionary, and that is such a key component of,
Mhm.
sometimes we just need that person that gives us what unlocks the permission within us to
Mhm.
embrace ourselves, to do the work, to come home to ourselves, to trust ourselves, to believe that as I wrap things up, we are valuable, we are worthy, and we get to choose, and we have that right to choose. Thank you so much, my friend, for helping me kick off our 5-year celebration episode today. Take good care of yourselves. We've got more to come here on Feel. And thank you, Leslie.
Thank
So good
you.
to see you.
Good to see you.